Dear viewers, so in this video we are going to talk about the basic thing in chemistry, which is the element, atom, molecules and compound. So let's start. You already know the basic that. What is element? Yes, tell me. Element is a pure substance which it's a pure, I'll just write keywords. It's a pure substance, cannot be broken down. Very important part, cannot be broken down into the simpler substance. So since I am writing on the touchpad, sometimes my writing is not very good, so please pardon me for that. Cannot be broken down into the simpler thing, broken into simpler substances. So can you give some example of that? Yes, if you think about in this nature, right, we have around 118 element we have on this in this earth we have. Okay, so why these are called atom? So let's talk about some of the example like carbon, oxygen, nitrogen. What else? There are lots of them, you can search on the periodic table. So if you think about oxygen, you cannot break oxygen further into the new thing, if it is not possible. So that's why it is a pure thing, it is not mixed with anything, it is only and only oxygen. So if I'm talking about oxygen, you cannot break down further to anything, it is just oxygen, it will be oxygen. Now what about, let's take example of the sugar. Okay, when you overheat, you can try burning, just take 1 tablespoon of sugar and heat. You will find that something is a black thing, and you will find also little moisture over there. So what is this black part? What you are observing is basically the carbon, and the moisture is because of water vapor. So can I say sugar is an element or compound or molecules? We cannot say this is an element. Is it clear? Because when you break down with the heat or any physical process or chemical process, if you are saying multiple things, it means it is not an element. So I hope this is very clear that element is a pure substance, cannot be broken down, and total we have around 118 elements. If you want to note down, you can note it down. So I'm just dragging this page little up, or I can just erase this part. So if we have around 118 element, how to categorize them, how to organize them? So for that we have a periodic table where we have organized them. That look, there are some property which behave like a metal, some are like a non-metal, and some have the similar property in between, a few property like metals, few property like non-metal. So we have said them metalloids, which will come further. So let's talk about how to label the compound or element. So before that, going to compound, you should know how to remember the element. So whenever you write elements, sometimes element we write the two word. As you can see here, you always write the two letters, like calcium, there are 2 letters. Sometimes we write a single letter. So this is very well known already. You have a predictable, you can look them. So let's talk about now, if you have your 118 element, as I told you, some are the metal, some are non-metal. So whenever you talk about the metal, what property you should expecting? So you should see this kind of property, that let's see, you should have the physical state. What you will find, the metal will be always in a solid state, except what? Mercury, which we already know we use in the thermometer. Now what about the non-metal and metalloids? Okay, so non-metal, as you can see, will be in the gaseous form here. Okay, so mostly all the non-metal what you see is basically either in the gaseous form or in the liquid form, or some are solid. So this is the physical state, very important. So whenever you make a statement, you always make a column to compare it. So what is the state you have? You have a solid, liquid, gas. Then what is appearance, means how they appear. So if you talk about metals, it looks shiny, right? The gold, silver, iron, so it's a shiny appearance. This is the second point. Now here the non-metal are basically you will see dull. So shiny, this is another word called lustrous. What are the physical state? I told you they are mostly at the solid state. The metalloids you will find as a solid. So the classic example what you have to study in your syllabus is the silicon. And the non-metal, they are mostly the gases, volatile liquids and the solids. What about melting and boiling point? As you know, metals are really very high temperature. You cannot just melt at the room temperature or like normal temperature, very high. Metalloids has similar kind of property, it is high temperature. But the non-metal, since it is already in gas or in the liquid form, it has very low melting and boiling point, except the carbon form, which the diamond is very tough and very hard to break even. There is another terminology called ductility. What is the ductility? Can be drawn into the wire. So there are two terminology again you have to remember, ductility and malleability. Ductility means basically how you can drawn into the wire. So how to remember? Very simple, you have to remember the word ductility means ductile and drawn into the wires. So see, D is coming common, so this is how you should link. The another terminology you will see always in a metal is that malleability. What is that? You always remember when you say malleability, hammered. Okay, so again, what is the common you are observing? M is the common. So malleability means when you hammer, it cannot break down to the into anything. It will just you can make different shapes, all the parts what we have in our house. Sonorous, what is that? That means sonorous. Sonar means related with the sound. That is also, let's remember how to remember, sonorous sound. So it will give you a sound called bell sound, like ton. You can just try it, when you bang the whenever metal, it will give you a nice sound, ton. And the metalloids, it will be like not like sonorous, it is between that. So there are some property you will see the metal, some property not metal. So the important point is the very high melting and boiling point, solid, which is a kind of similarity with the metal. Now what other similarity you have? So other similarities we have is a electrical conductivity and the heat conductivity. So if you think about the non-metal, they are not conductor of heat and electricity, they are very bad. Okay, so what about this metalloids? It is moderate. So we use the silicon chips in the computer. Why? Because they are good conductor of heat and electricity. So this is all about the element classification, which you should be knowing. Now I'm just erasing this page. The further concept is atom. So what do you mean by atom? Element, as I told you, is the simplest and pure thing which is made which has given all the thing on the earth we have. Now who made this element? So element can be exist in the atoms or it can be in molecules. So what about the atom? Atom is the smallest, tiniest particles. So atoms are, I'll just write the keyword, smallest particle of element, or you can say building block of element, which have the chemical property of that element, whichever you're talking about, particle of the element. So for example, of an element that have the, which is responsible for basically all the chemical properties of that element, whatever you're talking, chemical properties, just a minute. So chemical properties of the elements, okay, properties. So let's take example. If I'm talking about oxygen element, it is made of the oxygen atom only. Okay, all the oxygen atom which they combine and they form oxygen element. Yes. Now sometimes you will find that some element present as a monoatomic, some are present as a molecules, which are going to talk about, like for example oxygen, it is present in the oxygen molecules. Okay, so whenever there is oxygen atom, they combine and they form oxygen molecules, which we are going to talk it now. So is it clear for now that the smallest particle of element which have the same chemical property is called atom? So if you talk about only oxygen atom, it has only oxygen atom, and that is the responsible for making the oxygen element. So there are some elements which are monoatomic. So what I was talking you, that element can be present in the atomic form or molecules form. So you can write this as second part, that element can exist in or as atom or molecule. So which are the element which are present as a just atom? You know, that is called monoatomic element. What is the meaning of mono? You know, there are some terminology what you should be knowing. So in the science, when you say mono means it's one, when you say di means two, when I say tri means three, when I say tetra means four, when I say penta means 5. Maybe you can write it somewhere because this is very important, it is going to come frequently, and make a box over there. Then when you have hexa, 6, when you have hepta, 7, when you have octa, okay, 8. At least this much you should be knowing, okay, for a now. So monoatomic element, as the name suggests, this is element which is present is just single atom. What are the example? All inert gas. So let me delete all this page. I hope you have written already. Okay, so monoatomic element means basically present as a single atom. Okay, what are the example? Inert gas. Inert gas, inert, I will suggest not atom, I'll just say inert gas. This is also called noble gas. 1 minute. So this is called inert gas, or this is also called noble gas. Oh, yes. So where these are present? They are present in group 8, which you can see in the periodic table. Where they are located? They are located at this position, which is here. This is in the new periodic table. This is called group number 18, which is present here: helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, and radon. So these are the noble gas. So these are present always in a monoatomic elements. So this is the first part. Now what about the molecules? So as I told you, element can be exist as an atom. So this is the only atom element which are present as in atomic form. Rest are present in the molecular form. So let's talk about what is the molecules then. If I am talking that molecule, it means now it will be little higher than the atom. So what is molecule? It is a group of 2 or more atoms, okay, that are chemically combined. Example, you can say anything. So it's a group of 2 or more atom. Now again, molecules can be of, based on how it is combined, the molecules can be of different types. You can say it is a diatomic molecules. You can say it's a polyatomic molecules. So poly means more than 2. What is the poly means? More than 2. So di means, as I told you, 2. So what are these? Which is made of the, when the 2 atoms combine together. Example, you can think of oxygen O2, nitrogen N2, okay, fluorine F2, chlorine Cl2, They are a list of molecules which you can remember. Now what is this polyatomic molecules? The molecules which is made of 3 or more atom. It is made of 3 or more atom. So what are the example? You can think of O3, which is called ozone. Then you have, what else name you can think? Can you remember some of the name? Phosphorus. You might have heard of phosphorus present as a P4 form. Sulfur, it present in acid molecules. So whenever there is sulfur, they are always combined with 8 molecules, 8 atoms, and they form molecules. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. Okay, so see, if I will ask you represent sulfur atom, you will write S. When I say sulfur molecule, you always write S8. Phosphorus atom, P. Phosphorus molecule, always in a P4 form. So these are called polyatomic molecules. I hope till now this atom and molecules part you are okay. So next class we are going to talk about the compound.